It's time now to talk to the footy operations manager of the AFL, Mark Evans, is a regular on the program. We do appreciate his time. Welcome back, Mark.
Evening, Jared.
It's been a difficult week for football all round, and no doubt inside AFL House it's been tough to deal with what is, I think, a first in AFL football and a very unfortunate first.
Yeah, it's certainly been a difficult time and a complex issue, as many people will have discussed during the media this week. So certainly an interesting and tough time.
Have you had any input at AFL level, commission level, as to how they go about dealing with it?
I've been tied up in Laws of the Game committee meeting this afternoon, but look, it is a serious matter and understandably a very difficult situation for everybody. I think St Kilda's decision to apply that period of absence is correct. There's a lot of sensitivity in this issue and a number of things that need to be considered.
Do you see that anything can change, though? I mentioned last night and again tonight, Mark, that if the AFL's and St Kilda's moral and ethical stance is that it's wrong for a guy charged with 4 counts of rape to play on the weekend, and that's fine, but how can that stance alter in a few weeks' time? And it would look very shallow if the AFL suddenly allowed him to play the week straight after women's round. It would show that you were only concerned about the image of the game, not actually about the ethical stance.
I don't think that I certainly haven't been in any discussions where it was about Stephen Milne can't play until women's round is over. That hasn't been a part of any discussion that I've heard. But the AFL does have rights under its rules, and I know the Commission met last night to be given an update, and at the moment it's probably a good outcome that Stephen has this period of time where he's not participating in matches and certainly not participating in some of those other promotional and development activities.
Mark, on a football matter, last Friday night, the Hawthorn club doctor was in the chocolate brown and looked like a Carlton player kicked it in his direction a couple of times. I mean, the problem of having contrasting colours on anyone who's on the field, whether they're the two teams or the umpires or the trainers.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. It was... we looked at the tape on that one. There was certainly one instance, I think, where the player was confused by the movement of the doctor. Unusual for the doctor to move that fast. And talking to Hawthorn, the doctor was caught between that decision of I need to get off here or do I hold my ground. He took the I need to get off here route. And I suspect that that's caught the eye of that Carlton player who's just kicked the ball to that movement. But both doctors are in dark colours, one in navy blue and one in dark brown. And I have a dislike for officials who get in the way of play and affect play. So I think we need to consider all the different ways that we can reduce that, whether that's reducing people on the ground in the first place. We certainly have with the goal umpires when they were straddling across the line, and we made a change to their positioning when the ball's rolling towards them. I think we need to look at these things.
One of the things that we've always noticed at AFL House before you went there, Mark, is that they don't like anyone on the field apart from players, but then the clubs say, yeah, but we need half a dozen people to keep our players hydrated because, you know, they actually do sweat a lot. That basic conflict between how many people are allowed on the field.
Oh, absolutely, and that debate would have been had a couple of times over, and I think I'll have it a couple of times while I'm in the chair as well. So I look forward to that.
Are we going to see more sky blue, do you think, Mark, given that seems to clash with very few jumpers, arguably North Melbourne, but maybe not even with that?
It's interesting, isn't it? We've gone to that this year because of the confusion in a GWS game and Gold Coast game from earlier in the year.
Yep.
And the colour looks terrific. One of the things about potentially putting other people into those colours is we'll certainly notice them a whole lot more when they are on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah, we're happy to look at it.
Was the departure of Mark Neildon the method by which Melbourne handled it done with a tick from the AFL? Do you approve with the departure and the way it was handled?
I saw the press conference unfold, and it's a question for Mark Neildon as to whether he thought it was handled well. From the outside view looking in, it looks like the fact that he sat there and answered the questions and conducted himself very well. And I know that Melbourne have made sure that he's entitled to everything within his contract. I think that's probably a pretty good outcome. Difficult situation when a club decides to move a coach. I'm not sure there's a one-size-fits-all type model for that sort of process, but from the outside, it looked like they'd managed things well.
But nothing the AFL saw was, you think, detrimental to the game. They handled it well. The AFL gives it its approval.
I'm not sure we need to give it our approval.
Okay. Well, you are helping them administer their club, though.
I think if something had occurred that was against the spirit of what we thought was fair, then we might have something to say. But I'm not sure it's up to the AFL to approve that situation.
Are we going to see a change in the fixture for next year? Is this 3-week-long bye going to be compressed by one into 2 weeks?
Or are we going to have 2 byes stretched by 3 weeks to make it a 6-week double bye?
Yeah, there's certainly a push for 2 byes for players and coaches and staff across the year. The feedback, I know people think that we've lost momentum because there's 3 rounds of 6 games. But the alternative, if you're to have a bye, is there's either no football or there are some weekends that have very reduced football. And the feedback from other people at those times is that that's worse. This might be the best of those outcomes.
Not sure if you play golf,
so hang on, would you do it? So you do it twice, would you, for 2 byes?
That's a possibility.
Not sure if you play golf, but I've been at a golf club where they've changed 9 holes because there was outrage about 9 of the holes. What happened was that after the 9 holes were changed, the people that were outraged were happy, but the people that were happy became outraged. And so it seems to me that we've had 45 goes at getting this by unravelling the mystery. That's almost a Rubik's Cube, and there's probably 30 answers and solutions that are going to upset a part of the crowd. You might as well just stick with one.
I was going to say, why don't we let the numbers tell us? Why don't we look at people who go to the game and people who watch the game? And maybe that leads us to what the best outcome is.
Well, the people don't want buys. Basically, that's the answer.
But
the players want buys.
Yep.
I don't think the fans want buys.
Last one from me, Mark. There was a sign after a goal given by an Essendon player on the weekend. Do you have a word to him or have a word to Essendon? I know you had a word to Andrew Cracker and Brendan Goddard when they gave similar signs after goals. Do you leave that to Essendon or do you step in there?
Well, I certainly didn't have a chat to those players, but my predecessor might have. I did speak to Danny Corcoran after it, and we agreed that would be best managed by the Essendon leadership group. And I know that they have had that discussion, and I think the player has said that he would refrain from those gestures.
And do you suggest every player refrains from that gesture, even if they do have friends behind bars?
I've never really liked gestures other than those celebrate a goal or celebrate a good act of a teammate. I don't really like gestures to the wider world about something. I think let's keep it about football.
Couple more from me, Mark. An AFL supporter was charged with throwing a bottle last week, and I believe you've suspended him for 2 years. The question is, how do you enforce it?
Yeah, no, good question, and let's. I'm not sure how it's been reported to you, Jared, but I'd have to say we need to thank the members of the crowd who were around that incident, who helped convince that man to come forward, and he took himself forward to Carlton and voluntarily offered up his membership. So in speaking with him, I think Carlton are content that he's very sorry for his actions, and given that he's volunteered that, then I think that's a pretty good outcome by all involved. I know he will get a fine from the police. Mm-hmm. But it just goes to point out that the price of your membership ticket or the price of your admission, while you get excited at the football or emotional at the football, you have to be aware of your behaviour. And when people around you start helping you modify your behaviour, you know that society is doing the right thing. Of course, the absolute desire for us is that can be avoided at our game. We don't want that in our game. We see it in other games around the world, and I don't think it's got a place in AFL football.
No, people power working magnificently there, Mark. I wasn't going to go down this track, but you did open up, I guess, the topic for discussion. You had a Rules Committee meeting. What was being discussed and the focus of, I guess, your 2.5 hour chat?
Oh, you've got Lee there. Maybe he can answer the question.
There's no
I didn't pass it to you, Mark. I just said you're the spokesman.
Good work, Lee. No, it was fantastic. It was my first time at a proper meeting in the chair, and I have to say I was delighted with the input from everybody. We did add 3 people to Laws of the Game committee today: Rodney Eade, Peter Schwab, and Tom Harley. and I think they'll bring a wealth of experience, and Tom in particular just straight out of the game. Rodney's still coaching in the game, and Peter Schwab, who's been involved as a player, coach, umpire, match review panel, have really got a good understanding of the rules. So
let's get down to the nitty-gritty, though. Which rules are we changing this week?
This week we do have some things on the agenda for the year, and we'd love to reduce secondary stoppages, and we'd love to get a little bit more flow in play, and so they're the sorts of things we're looking at.
Are you concerned that the free kick numbers are going down and the stoppage numbers are going up? Because that would appear to be the very heart of the game that is getting lost to, I guess, a look like rugby league or union.
We've certainly had an increase in those secondary stoppages. That was pointed out to us today. Now, that can be partly due to weather or partly due to certain games, so you'd want to see more weeks unfold before you made that comparison. Whereas early on in the year, while we were very, very content with the fact that secondary stoppages had dropped to an all-time low almost. But we sort of felt that umpiring was over-officious, so I'm not sure you can always just pick up the paper or look at a game each week and come up with the issue of the day, and umpiring department certainly doesn't do that.
I know Jared thinks it's due to weather. It's due to whether or not you're paying enough free kicks. That's what Jared thinks. Mark, great to have you on, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
Thanks, guys.